All right, thanks for coming, everyone, to our second mentor Zoom. Um, Thanksgiving's next week, so uh, it's been quite busy over here in our end, and then I will address probably some of the questions you might all have at the very end. But welcome, everyone. As always, if you have any issues, send me a text. That's the best way to get to me. I do have my phone right here in front of me to alert me, and I will try my best to help discreetly while still handling everything on my end. You can see I have three screens to make sure I'm on top of everything. So I do my best. But we're going to go over the college 101s, the colleges, and what the sophomores are up to, and what we're kind of talking to them about at this point that I could use your help as mentors with, because it is a lot of building upon itself so that next year they can build upon more, and that way they're as ready as possible come senior year. Um, have any questions at any point, feel free to unmute, raise your hand. I can't see everyone. I'm happy to be interrupted because I enjoy that conversation with everyone. But as always, I do have to shout out my team. We do a whole lot of work together, especially in times where it can be a little bit difficult, like the time we are in right now. But the team, we all come together because we all believe we want to do what is best for our students. Got to give them a huge shout out, especially Esmeralda. She's checking in with all the sophomores and juniors throughout this time period, and it's been going pretty well. But let's go ahead and get started. So sophomores have started their college 101s. This is where they will actually get to meet Jorge and Abby, who I showed on the previous slide in the bottom left corner. Jorge and Abby will actually go to the high school and start having meetings with them about once or twice a semester, to really kind of talk to them about college topics. Now, Jorge and Abby mainly talk to our college students, those who have graduated from our high school program, are now in college, attending classes, getting ready for college graduation and their career. But they notice things in the college students that we may not see in the high school students. So they really, take that time to be able to talk to them about, what it is they should be thinking about. So in our last meeting with College 101, Jorge actually went into terminology. He talked about FAFSA. He talked about college terms such as, when they go to the admissions department, when they're applying, how they can talk to professors, what are office hours. What he's really trying the most to get out of them is just to get them talking, get them sharing their ideas with him, asking him questions, saying, what are their concerns now. We try to build these relationships early. That way, once they're seniors and going on to college, it is an easy, simple flow that they will then start talking to Jorge or Abby, once they're a college student. That would be that person that they can reach out to on a regular basis. And then Jorge and Abby will talk about things that the students can do now to be better prepared for college. So they talk to them about the fact that last in the last mentor's Zoom, I talked about dual enrollment courses with FSW. So Jorge and Abby will talk about how that GPA now is actually going to affect them in college. That just because they're still in high school doesn't mean they shouldn't take it seriously, because that college GPA is going to follow them into their college freshman year. So whatever they're getting now in their FSW classes or their FGCU classes is going to follow them. It is going to affect their admissions chances at a university. If they do very well, it's going to boost their opportunities. But if, say, they're too distracted with what's going on here, if they're focused on friends instead of school, then that can affect them negatively come college admissions time. They're going to get a boost to their weighted GPA because of the honors AP and ACE courses, but they get a much bigger boost if they're taking dual enrollment classes. All of those are going to affect what they have, that senior year and during the college application season. What we've been telling them for years now, well, I should say our seniors, started getting this message sophomore year. We don't want a door slammed in their face. We want them to be able to say, hey, I want to go here, I want to go there. I have options, rather than the option be made for them where now they can only go to one school. Maybe it's community college and maybe that's not what they want. We don't want that to be their only option. We want the students to be able to say, hey, I'm going to go to a community college because that's what I want to do, or I want to go to this university, or I'm going to go out of state. What we want for them is to just be happy with their decision, which is, why we build everything upon itself. And so Jorge and I, we do a great job of just talking to them and getting to know them to be able to share more. So what I encourage you as mentors to do with all your students is start talking about those ideas, start talking about college. If they're in dual enrollment classes, ask them how their classes are going and what they think their GPA is going to be at the end of the semester. If they're only taking one class, then that's great. They only need to focus on that one when it comes to college GPA, but not to lose sight of the other six that they're taking at a Immokalee High because that's still going to affect their overall GPA. It can be very overwhelming, but it's those conversations that really help them start getting comfortable with you and start sharing more. And don't get me wrong, you're going to ask them, how are they doing? They're going to say good, then they're not going to say anything else at all. So you're going to ask them, okay, what is good? Tell me what you've done lately. What can you tell me about an assignment or a test, or can you talk to me about what exactly is good? My favorite thing to respond to them saying is, I know you know more words than good, so I'm gonna ask you again, and you're gonna give me a better response. Um, you're gonna start to pull that out of them so that they can just feel more comfortable with you. I know it's scary on their end, but that's how we build this upon itself. Um, so Jorge and Abby actually handed these out at the meetings. Now I can promise you that probably 80% of our students looked at it once, shoved it in their backpack, never looked at it again. It happens. They're high school teenagers, of course. That is what is expected of them. But this is where we can start talking about, what kind of score are you looking at? Are you looking at community college, a state college? Are you looking at a public school, a private school, liberal arts? There might even be some students who are now realizing, maybe college isn't for me. Maybe it should be a technical school route or a trade school route. Just because they're thinking that does not mean they're no longer going to be a part of our program. Some students are fearful of that. They say, Guadalupe is always talking about college. If I say I want to do something else, I don't get to be a part of it. I don't have the job and I don't have the scholarship. Every one of them came into the program thinking that they want to go to college, and we will support that. If they're changing their mind to a technical school or trade school, or even possibly the military, we still work with them. We're not going to say, no, you're no longer a part of the program. No, we will still work with them, get them talking to people so that way they can find out what it is they want to do. They also talked about for profit colleges because there are some schools that will come to Immokalee to present that are for profit universities. So, just getting them comfortable with these ideas and these topics, and I can send the flyer handout as well in my recap, so that way you can talk to the student as well. So, sophomore year, a lot of this year, and as mentors, it's talking to them about becoming a leader, how they can start pursuing that role so that come junior year, they can be the captain of the color guard line, how they can be the captain of their sports team, how they can be the volunteer leader in their beta club, whatever it might be, asking them, who is someone in your club or your extracurricular activity that's in charge of all of you? And could you possibly be them next year? I just got off the phone with the band director this morning because one of our students, who is a part of ours and is also the captain of the color guard team, which is why that was my first example, is starting to feel a little overwhelmed and stressed. And so we talk as with the coaches and with the leaders of those clubs to make sure that the student is not taking on more than they can chew, because they can possibly face that burnout, that tiredness, and them knowing that, like myself and the band director are talking to best support them, helps the students feel so much more supported and empowered, as these problems are being faced. What we don't want them to do is to be complacent, to be happy with just being a member. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but we know what our students are capable of, that they can be the leaders, captains, vice captains, treasurers, secretaries, whatever it might be. Our students can take that on and be great at it. We want them to be able to ask questions, to talk to people, and mostly to ask for help. If there's one lesson I want every student to walk away with from my conversation with them, is that there is no shame in asking for help. So if you're talking to your student and you're just bringing up these ideas like, oh, are you able to be a captain? Are you able to be the treasurer? And they're like, oh, I don't really know. And that's where you say, who do you talk to? Who can you ask? Who can you have these deeper conversations with so that they can finally start, putting themselves out there. Now, you might talk to them and then they'll go to these meetings and still be shy, but the more you bring it up and the more we bring it up, the more comfortable they're going to be with that possibility. Now, one of the biggest clubs that our students participate in is called the Beta Club. It's the Better Education Through Achievement. Probably half of the students are in it, half of the students aren't. But if your student is in it, they're called the Better Education Through Achievement. They do have a president, a vice president, a secretary, and a treasurer. There are those four positions, but they also have volunteer leaders and fundraising leaders. That's where they will help the club raise money, gather volunteers for different events or projects because it's all about volunteering and better servicing your community. If they're in a sport, a lot of sports still have their captains and vice captains. Band, that is a really big one that probably has like 60% of our students. There are each section leader, then there's the marching band leader, and I'm not a big band person, so I don't know each specific position, but there are multiple, so the student can take on from less of a leadership role to a higher leadership role to the main one in charge. Um, it's all about having that conversation with people to find out what it is that they can do. So, you may have heard me talk about this one time or another, and I think I actually brought it up in our last conversation. But with Magoosh, every sophomore in the class is about to get every sophomore, every student in our sophomore class is about to get their Magoosh account. This is where they will get test prep, where we will try to get the students to spend at least an hour a week on the portal. Now, again, they are teenagers, so not every single one of them is going to be great at it because they are going to school, going to work, going to extracurriculars, helping out at home, and then this on top of it, on top of their homework. I can't say that 100% of their students will do it, but we try to push them as much as we can. And as mentors, I ask you to ask your student, have you been spending time on your English portal? Have you logged in? Have you done any test questions? Have you done any practice reading? Um, when it comes to doing the SAT and ACT, this time that they spend on Magoosh is going to be incredibly beneficial for them in the long run. The more time they spend on it now, the better they will be prepared. It doesn't matter if they're taking the SAT or ACT. It's gonna be, the test questions that they have are very similar to each other. So it's not really like, this test is better than that one, but like how well can they prepare for the questions that they're going to be asked because both of them follow very similar subject lines. And the
Daniel,
reason, go
I'm
ahead, Nana.
sorry. But so will they have their Magoosh now already?
We're going to be giving it this week.
Okay. So I
Yeah.
shouldn't ask her as she spends any time on it yet.
Yeah. So if you're going to ask, definitely ask right after Thanksgiving break because they will have already had it for at least a little bit.
Okay.
For both tests, the reason we do push it so much is because of the Bright Future Scholarship. Now, we want as many of our students to be eligible for the Bright Future Scholarship. They have the Florida Academic Scholars and the Florida Medallion Scholars. Bright Futures is funded by the Florida Lottery, so it will probably never run out of funds, considering it's the lottery system and who doesn't like buying Powerball tickets when it's upwards of $500 million. They do have two levels where one will cover 100% of their college tuition at a Florida school. So if they're going to a school like FSU, FAU, FIU, UCF, UF, FGCU, any of the state university systems, this scholarship will cover 100% of tuition. So their classes will be fully covered and paid for. All the student will have to find is money for housing, meal plan, books, and transportation. But that's a lot less considering, how much tuition can cost. It's about half the cost of attending a school. And then the Florida Medallion Scholars cover 75% of the tuition. Now, with the high school course credit requirements, these are the high school graduation requirements. So all the students will meet that by the time they're seniors. Their GPA, most of our students have above a 3.5, but they definitely have above a 3.0. And then this is the volunteer hours and paid work hours can actually be filled through our work program where they go to school and work after school. So all of our students work more than 240 hours a year, actually more than 280. So this is not a problem. The main challenge our students face is this middle one, the college entrance exams by high school graduation year. So with those, for example, this year's seniors, the class of 2026, have to have an ACT of 29 or an SAT of 1330 to qualify the 100% tuition. And then for the 75%, at least a 24 on the ACT or an 1190 on the SAT. Our students typically average about a 19 on the ECT and about a 950 on the SAT. Now, I did go to a conference last year where they actually told us that only about 30% of students in Florida end up qualifying for Bright Futures. It sounds horrible and it's a super low number, but I will say if we can get the students to this level, there's a huge amount of relief that they will then have because so much of their schooling will be covered for. And not all of our students will get this. Last year, I believe we saw about 4 or 5 out of the 33 that graduated end up with Bright Futures. But those 4 or 5, again, had so much that got covered that it really helped them out in the long run. And then they got to say, I can go to this school and I can be able to afford it. Any questions so far? No? Awesome. So, oops, that's supposed to say sophomore year. My apologies. So, if you ever have questions about your student's GPA, let us know and I can send it over to you. I'm happy to share that with you. If you ever have questions about what classes they're registered for in dual enrollment, say FSW or ITech at this time because they are sophomores, let us know. We can share that as well. If you're curious to know how many hours they worked last year in our after school program and how much scholarship funds they had accrued, I can also send it over. Again, that's where they can accrue up to $4,000 per year. What we also did with them last year is we actually got their top 3 majors and top 3 careers. So if your student hasn't shared that with you yet and you want to know, again, just send me that email. I'm happy to share it. If they just started this year, we won't have that information just yet, but we will collect that over the next few months. With the SAT and ACT, if your student is at all interested in attending early admissions with FGCU, they will have to complete the SAT and ACT this year because FGCU does not allow any other tests that students take. It has to be that SAT and ACT to qualify for early admissions, which means taking all their classes at FGCU in person or online so that they can actually be there instead of being at Immokalee High School. What we'll also start working with students on is their FSA IDs. Now, we just finished up FAFSA with our seniors. We're starting the process with our juniors, but at the end of December, because I'm not going to see you guys until I think it's February or next Zoom, we're actually going to start having the students work on their FSA IDs. This is the ID, excuse me, sorry. This is the ID that they use to get into the FAFSA portal. That's where they can apply for federal aid to the colleges and universities they go to. The reason we have them do it so early is because if, say, the parent may have if the parent had incorrectly done their taxes, or if, say, they made a mistake, or if, say, maybe there's a correction that needed to be made, that typically takes a few months on our end. And we want the students to have that ready as soon as possible. So that way we're not struggling with that during senior year with the students and the parents. We will track the time they spend on Magoosh, but again, they're sophomores, they're not, that's not at the top of their mind, which is why I encourage mentors to always share that with their student and ask, have you been logging in? Have you been studying? What else is going on that, it's affecting that? Sometimes it really is just, there's so much going on that it's hard for them to do. Days on the Saturdays that are available in our lab if you'd like to meet your mentee in person. They are available from 9 to 1. I know a few of the sophomore mentors actually came out this past Saturday, met in our conference room, and their students actually, they all get along playing the guitar. So they actually played the guitar for a good amount in our conference room. But if you'd like to do an activity with your student in that conference room, let me know and that way I can reserve it for you. And then I will also give you the contact information for the staff member who's here in person. These are 2025 and 2026 events. I am still awaiting confirmation for the event on April 11th, but I'm hoping to get that back before winter break. That way everything can be ironed out. The senior celebration is on there. Your students won't attend, but we do like to invite everyone in case they'd like to be there. And these are events for the entire center. If you're interested in any of them, upcoming, we do have our holiday gift shop, which we did talk about in the last call. And then I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. And are there any questions? I can answer. There is something I gotta talk about, but I can't talk about it while it's being recorded. So I do have to save it for afterwards. Are there any questions from what I presented so far? Go ahead, Jody.
For the Saturday gatherings, do the students have any issue getting transportation to the center?
Typically, no, but if there's a student with a situation where they do, we'll work it out to make sure that they can get here.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
Go ahead, Yolanda.
On one of your slides, you had AICE. What does that stand for?
Oh, that's ACE. That's the Cambridge Advanced Program where students can get what's known as an ACE diploma if they take 7 different courses. It's in addition, it's a weighted GPA addition, similar to an AP course or an honors course.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. All right, so I will stop my recording.